The crimson sun sank beneath the fractured horizon of Solaris 9, casting long blood-red shadows across the alien terrain. Lieutenant Cole Maddox crouched beside a crackling fire, gnawing the meat off a curved femur nearly the size of his forearm. The bone was from the beast he had taken down earlier, a tusk brawler covered in natural armor that had charged him just after dawn. Now it sizzled and popped over the open flames, the savory scent filling the air. He had no idea what the creature was called, but it had tried to rip his spine out, so he figured he'd earned the right to rename it dinner. His armor lay discarded, nearby, scarred, melted in parts, still steaming faintly. Underneath, his black underlayer was shredded, revealing a lattice of bruises and cuts across his ribs and arms. His body ached, but there was a grin on his face. There was something primal about this kind of survival. Direct, honest. Then he saw her. At the edge of the camp, standing motionless beneath the shadow of a twisted tree, was a woman unlike any he'd seen, even among the dozens of species catalogued in the Terran Alliance. She was tall, lean, and covered in sleek orange fur that glinted in the firelight like polished copper. Her tail swayed with slow, deliberate rhythm. Her pointed ears twitched once, alert, and her golden eyes, feline and intelligent, were fixed on him. The tip of a curved blade gleamed at her side. Cole stood slowly, not reaching for a weapon but ready if he had to. Friend or foe? She stepped forward, her voice smooth, almost lyrical. Her translator clicked on mid-sentence. That is a bloodhorn's leg. Cole looked at the bone in his hand. Is that what it's called? Nearly took my head off this morning. You ate it. Her nose twitched as she caught the scent of the meat. You cooked it. Yeah, he said, shrugging. Figured if it tried to kill me, I was entitled to a taste. The Vulpine woman stared at him as if unsure whether he was a savage or a legend. I'm Cole Maddox, Terran Forces. Posted here 3 weeks ago, he added. And you? A pause. Then she stepped into the light, revealing the dark leather harness strapped tight to her curves, and the faint tribal tattoos running along her shoulders and collarbone. My name is Varia, she said, of Clan Emberfang. I came to deliver your supply cache. She glanced again at the roasting bloodhorn leg, nose twitching once more. Cole broke off a chunk, blew on it, and offered it across the fire. Go on, tell me I'm not crazy. Varia hesitated, then stepped forward and took a bite. Varia chewed slowly, her sharp teeth slicing through the seared bloodhorn meat with ease. Her expression remained unreadable, her golden eyes fixed on Cole, as if evaluating more than just his cooking skills. Finally, she swallowed. Savory. Slightly gamey, she admitted, but not unpleasant. Cole chuckled, tossing another stick onto the fire. That's the highest praise I've gotten in weeks. Varia crouched opposite him, her movements precise and feline. The flames cast dancing shadows on her orange fur, and the embers reflected in her eyes like burning stars. She sat with her legs folded beneath her, tail curling around her ankles, watching him carefully. You're not what I expected, she said. I get that a lot, Cole replied. Let me guess, you were told humans couldn't last 3 days alone on this planet? She gave a small, amused tilt of her head. Most don't last one. Solaris 9 is a proving ground. Bloodhorns, razorbeaks, tunnel serpents, all apex hunters. My people train here, but we do it in packs. We don't camp alone with nothing but a fire and a grin. Cole shrugged. I don't grin because I'm fearless. I grin because I'm still alive. Silence stretched between them. The air was thick with scent, charred meat, wild flowers, something metallic in the dust. The crackling fire was the only sound for a moment, until a distant howl cut through the night. Varia's ears twitched. That wasn't a bloodhorn. No, Cole said, grabbing his sidearm. It wasn't. Varia stood in a fluid motion, her claws unsheathing, with a subtle shake. Pack howlers, she murmured. They hunt in silence until the first one sees prey. That howl was a mark. They found us. Cole rolled his shoulders and reattached the chest plate of his battered armor. Then let's make them. Regret the discovery? She gave him a sideways look. You intend to fight with me? I intend to win. If you've got a better plan, now's the time. Varia's tail flicked once. Fine, follow me. Varia darted through the underbrush, her lithe form barely making a sound despite the dense foliage. Cole kept pace behind her, his boots crunching softly against the cracked terrain. Though she moved with the grace of a born predator, she occasionally glanced back, checking on him. Not to see if he was lagging, but because she was beginning to see him as something more than just a stubborn off-worlder. The firelight disappeared. Behind them, swallowed by the darkness, the trees grew denser, branches clawing at them from both sides, and still the howls echoed closer now, sharper. The pack howlers weren't simply hunting, they were coordinating. Stop, Varia whispered, flattening against a massive root system. She sniffed once, ears twitching, eyes narrowing to slits. They're encircling, smarter than usual. Cole unslung his rifle and crouched beside her. How many? At least 6, maybe 8. Cole scanned the area, instinct guiding his vision more than his training. I say we break their line, hit one hard, and fast, scatter the pack. Varia bared her fangs slightly. You would make a good Emberfang. That sounds like a compliment. She didn't answer, but her gaze lingered on him longer than necessary before she turned and crouched low. There's a ridge nearby, steep on 3 sides. If we reach it first, we control the high ground. Lead the way. They ran. The forest pulsed. Around them, shapes darted between the trees, too fast to aim at, too quiet to hear until they were already close. Twice, Cole fired blind into the dark. Once, Varia wheeled mid-stride and drove a curved blade through something that had leapt at them from the canopy. They reached the ridge just as the first pack howler lunged from the shadows. Cole pivoted, blasting it midair. Its twisted form crashed into the rocks below, lifeless before it hit the ground. But more were coming. Varia spun and leapt to the top of a jagged boulder, eyes blazing gold in the gloom. They'll rush us now. This is the part where we make them bleed. Cole joined her on the rise, rifle raised, blade ready at his belt. You take the left. I'll cover the right and the center. He smiled. They'll wish they hadn't tried. As the pack surged toward them in a blur of claws and shrieks, Varia and Cole stood back to back, 2 predators against the night full of teeth. The pack howlers struck like living shadows, their sleek bodies darting with feral precision through the mist-choked air. One bounded up the ridge and leapt for Cole's throat, only to be blasted backward mid-air, limbs flailing as his rifle barked in a burst of plasma. Another lunged low. Varia was faster. She pivoted on her heel, ducked beneath its jaws, and drove her blades straight up into its chest. The beast let out a strangled cry and collapsed at her feet. 2 down! Cole shouted, firing again as another creature flanked him. How many more, you guessing? Too many to count, Varia snarled, her tail whipping for balance as she slashed through a howler that tried to flank them from behind. Keep your eyes open. They fought like 2 halves of a living weapon. Cole's style was grounded in brute force, heavy strikes, decisive shots, zero hesitation. Varia, by contrast, moved like fire itself, elegant, fluid, relentless. Together, they became something more. Another wave came. Cole dropped his empty rifle and switched to his blade. He caught the next beast mid-pounce and used its momentum to flip it over his shoulder, slamming its spine first into a sharp outcrop. The scream cut short as bone cracked. To his left, Varia leapt onto a howler's back, wrapping her legs around its midsection and driving both blades down into the space between its armored plates. She rode its collapse to the ground, then rolled, clear just as a second beast lunged at the corpse, tearing into its fallen packmate in a frenzy. Cole grabbed a rock and hurled it. The distracted predator barely turned before his blade sliced clean through its throat. The ridge grew quiet. One by one, the pack howlers lay still, blood pooling in the cracked stone, bodies twitching in the final spasms of death. The silence returned, pierced only by the pair's ragged breathing. Varia straightened, wiping blood from her jaw. Her fur was matted in places, torn in others, but her amber eyes still burned. That was exhilarating. Cole laughed hoarsely. You Emberfangs really know how to party. She looked at him for a long moment, then said softly, I've fought beside many warriors, but never like that. Never in sync like we were just now. He met her gaze. Then maybe we should stick together. For survival's sake, of course. Varia's tail twitched behind her. Of course. But neither of them believed that was the real reason. The adrenaline hadn't yet faded as Cole and Varia stood atop the ridge, surrounded by the broken bodies of the predators they'd just slain. The night air was heavy with the scent of blood and ozone, and for the first time since arriving on Solaris 9, Cole felt something other than isolation clawing at the back of his mind. He felt alive. Come on, Varia said finally, breaking the silence. There's a storm coming. You smell it? Cole sniffed the air, metallic, damp, like rain on battery acid. I don't have a nose like yours, he said, but yeah, I smell trouble. She nodded and led the way down a winding path through the rock outcroppings, her movement slowing now that the danger had passed. Cole followed her, keeping his eyes on the swaying tail ahead of him. Not that he was complaining. Between the moonlight on her orange fur and the subtle rhythm of her hips, it was hard not to appreciate the view. They reached a small cave, its entrance hidden behind a tangle of thorny vines. Varia ducked through first, motioning for him to follow. Inside, the space was surprisingly dry and wide enough for them both to sit comfortably. A natural fissure in the ceiling vented smoke, and scorch marks on the walls suggested it had served as shelter before. Cole dropped his gear with a groan. I'm starting to think you Emberfangs aren't just good at killing. You've got a real talent for finding hideouts. She sat across from him, folding her legs beneath her. We've been living on this planet long before your people arrived. You have gear. We have instinct. Cole glanced at his battered rifle. Looks like Instinct won tonight. They built a small fire using dried root fibers and branches that Varia produced from a bundle wrapped in waterproof cloth. As the flames danced, Cole leaned back against the stone and finally let out a long breath. Varia was watching him again, this time with curiosity, not suspicion. You fought well, she said. You say that like you're surprised. I am, she admitted. Humans talk a lot, but they rarely show what they're made of. You didn't flinch, even when they surrounded us. Cole met her eyes, his voice quieter. I've had to fight alone for a long time. It's nice having someone at my side. She didn't reply, but her expression softened. Her eyes dipped to the fresh cuts on his arms and side. You should let me tend to those, she said, rising to kneel beside him. Your blood smells sharp. Infected wounds attract more than just scavengers on this planet. He chuckled. You're telling me I'll smell like dinner to the wrong kind of predator? Yes. As she opened a small satchel and pulled out a bundle of herbal salve, Cole couldn't help but ask, You always take care of near strangers like this? She dipped her fingers in the paste. Only the ones who fight beside me like they've always belonged there. Their eyes met, and for a moment the air between them seemed to hum with a different kind of charge. Varia's touch was warm and sure as she spread the thick herbal salve across the angry gash on Cole's shoulder. He winced slightly at the sting but didn't move. Her hands were deft, precise, her claws retracted completely, a sign of trust, if he was interpreting her culture right. You know, Cole said, voice low, on Earth this kind of thing is usually followed by a drink and a second date. She arched a brow, the firelight dancing in her amber eyes. Is that how humans flirt? Bleed, fight, and joke through the pain? Pretty much. He grinned. It weeds out the pretenders. She dabbed the last of the salve and leaned back on her heels, considering him. You hide pain with humor. You mask fear with confidence. But you don't run. That's rare. Cole met her gaze. You hide everything behind that calm, predatory grace. But I saw the way you looked at me when the howlers closed in. Like a target? She asked with mock innocence. Like a partner. That silenced her. For the first time she looked away, not with rejection, but with something more vulnerable. Her tail curled around her side, protective. Cole leaned in slightly, his voice softer now. I meant what I said back on the ridge. We make a hell of a team. She gave a small nod, and for a moment the only sounds were the pop of the fire and the distant rumble of the approaching storm. Then she spoke quietly. I was raised to believe outsiders could never understand Solaris, that humans would die here, or worse, try to claim what isn't theirs. But you didn't try to control anything. You adapted. I didn't come here to conquer, Cole said. I came here to survive. I didn't expect to find someone worth surviving for. Varea's ears twitched. Slowly, carefully, she moved closer. The air between them tightened, charged with something that had nothing to do with battle or instinct. Her fur brushed his arm. Her scent, wildflowers, smoke, and something warm and earthy, was unmistakable. I should rest, she said, barely a whisper. So should I, he replied, but neither of them moved. And when her hand finally found his, fingers lacing through calloused fingers, they both understood. The fight for survival was no longer just about predators and prey. It was about each other. The first droplets struck the rocks outside their shelter with a soft hiss. Acid rain, diluted but still dangerous in high concentrations. Lightning spidered across the horizon, briefly illuminating the twisted trees and jagged cliffs beyond the cave entrance. Inside, the fire had dimmed to a low glow. Cole sat close to it, sharpening his combat knife with steady rhythmic strokes. Across from him, Varea sat with her arms wrapped around her knees, tail draped, protectively over her feet, watching the entrance. Storm's closing fast, she said, her voice quiet. We won't be going anywhere for a while. Good, Cole muttered. After tonight's brawl, I could use a few hours without something trying to eat me. Varia tilted her head, eyes fixed on his profile. You didn't hesitate. Not when the pack howlers came. Not even when it looked like we'd be overwhelmed. Cole gave a short shrug. Fear's just another weapon, Varia. You either use it, or it uses you. She studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. And what do you fear? He paused mid-stroke, the blade catching a flash of firelight. Losing something I didn't realize I needed until it was too late. Silence followed, thick, weighted. Then she stood, walking slowly toward him. Her movements were fluid, but purposeful. She sat beside him this time, closer than before, close enough that their shoulders brushed. You're not like the others, she said quietly. The scientists, the explorers, even the soldiers we've seen before. You don't just observe our world, you fit into it. Cole turned toward her. Maybe I was meant to. Varea's gaze dropped to his lips for half a second, just long enough he noticed. Her voice dropped to a near whisper. Your people call us exotic, dangerous, but we are more than fangs and instinct. We feel, we choose. She looked up, locking eyes with him. I choose to trust you, Cole Maddox, and I choose you. And I choose you, he said simply, the words leaving him with surprising ease. Their lips met. The kiss was slow, exploratory, less about desire and more about understanding, confirmation. Her hands slid up his arms, claws lightly grazing skin. His fingers tangled in the soft fur at the base of her neck. Outside, the storm crashed against the cliffs. Inside, they didn't flinch. They'd found shelter, not just from the rain, but from the loneliness they'd both grown used to. Sunlight filtered through the cracks in the cave ceiling, casting warm golden bands across the stone floor. Outside, the storm had passed, leaving the air thick with humidity and the scent of wet minerals. Birds with translucent wings sang in the distance, an eerie, melodic warble that echoed through the jungle beyond. Cole stirred first. His body ached in the familiar way only a real fight, and something far more intimate could bring. He blinked against the sun, then turned to find Varia curled beside him, her head resting on his shoulder, her orange tail wrapped loosely over his thigh like a warm blanket. She was still asleep, her breathing slow and even, a faint smile playing at the corners of her mouth. He studied her in silence for a long moment. Her fur was slightly ruffled, one ear half folded from where it had pressed against him in the night. Her expression was peaceful, trusting. It hit him harder than it should. How deeply he already cared. Varia stirred, golden eyes blinking open as she stretched slightly, her claws flexing before retracting. You're staring, she murmured without looking at him. Can you blame me? Cole said, grinning. I'm pretty sure I just slept next to a warrior goddess with a tail. Varia rolled onto her side, propping her head on one hand. You're lucky I like flattery, Maddox. I'm lucky you didn't gut me in my sleep. That too, she said with a quiet laugh. They sat in companionable silence for a while before Cole's gaze drifted to the fire pit. We should check the perimeter soon. That fight last night probably stirred up more than just pack howlers. Varia's expression shifted, her tone sobering. Agreed. And I still need to get your supply logs back to my outpost. They'll wonder what happened. Cole stood and began pulling on his gear, pausing as he held his chest plate. Do they know you're working? With a human now? No, she said simply. Not like this. He looked over his shoulder. Will that be a problem? She was quiet for a beat then. Only if we let it be. They geared up quickly and exited the cave, stepping into the drenched forest. The sky had cleared, and the high canopy shimmered with droplets, each leaf trembling slightly in the morning breeze. The world felt still, on the edge of something new. As they walked side by side toward the high cliffs overlooking the valley, Varia asked, What happens when they recall you? Cole glanced at her. They tried already. I refused. You refused Earth Command? I told them I found something more important out here. Varia tilted her head. What was your justification? He gave her a sideways glance. Didn't write one. She smiled, ears twitching slightly. Then let's make sure it was worth it. Below in the valley, shadowed by distant mountains, something moved. Cole's smile faded. That is new. Varia raised her scope, scanning the shifting mass in the brush. By the flame, that's not a pack howler, it's bigger. The beast stepped into view, massive, plated in black-red scales, 4 eyes glowing like molten amber. It looked up, sniffed the wind, and roared. Cole's hand went to his rifle. Guess breakfast's going to have to wait. The beast that emerged from the valley brush was unlike anything Cole had encountered on Solaris 9, or anywhere for that matter. It stood at least 12 feet tall on 4-clawed limbs, with a segmented tail that curled like a whip behind it. Jagged bone protrusions lined its spine, and its snout bristled with rows of teeth too numerous to count. Its eyes, 4 of them, 2 large and 2 smaller, locked onto Cole and Varia with chilling intent. It didn't charge. It studied. That's not a bloodhorn, Cole muttered, lowering his rifle just slightly. That's something new. Varia's eyes narrowed as she stepped forward, drawing both her curved blades. No, it's old. I've heard the elders whisper about them in stories. Creatures that only appear once every few generations. They called them Dvorak. Dvorak, Cole repeated, feeling the word burn into his memory. Great. What's the plan? If the stories are true, pray it doesn't see us first. Too late. The Dvorak's nostrils flared. Then it moved, fast, terrifyingly fast for its size, tearing up the ground as it bounded toward the ridge with unnatural speed. Cole's instincts kicked in. Split and flank, make it pick a target. They darted in opposite directions. The Dvorak barreled up the slope after Cole first, who fired a series of rapid plasma bolts directly into its chest. They hissed against the beast's armored hide, leaving scorch marks but no blood. Varia came in from the side, blades flashing in the sun. She landed a strike on the creature's flank, her claws raking across its hide, but the Dvorak twisted with a snarl and whipped its tail at her. She ducked just in time, but the sheer force of the strike sent her skidding back across the wet stone. Cole dove, slamming his shoulder into the beast's side. It stumbled slightly, long enough for him to plunge his knife into the gap between its armored scales just behind its shoulder. The Dvorak howled, more enraged than pained, and spun, flinging Cole into a nearby boulder. His vision blurred as he slammed into it, the wind knocked out of his lungs. "Cole!" Varia cried, running to his side. The Dvorak loomed behind her, rearing up. He gasped, "Get clear!" She didn't. Instead, she stood between him and the monster. Her body low, eyes blazing with feral defiance. "You don't die here?" she growled. "Not while I still breathe?" The Dvorak charged, but this time Varia met it halfway. Varia surged forward with a scream that split the humid air. Her blades became extensions of her will, one high, one low, both slashing in perfect arcs. The Dvorak's forward momentum worked against it as she met it head-on, ducking beneath its outstretched claws and carving twin gashes across its underbelly. The beast roared in fury, tail lashing wildly, but she was already moving, leaping, spinning, flipping over its back and driving one blade deep between its vertebrae near the base of its neck. The Dvorak bucked, slamming into a rock face, trying to dislodge her. It couldn't. With a primal growl, Varia yanked the blade free, flipped off its back, and landed beside Cole just as he staggered to his feet. His nose was bleeding, his shoulder dislocated, but he was alive, and stunned by what he'd just witnessed. You fought it like you knew it," he gasped. "I did," she panted, amber eyes glowing. Every Emberfang child is told the story of the Dvorak, how it stalks through fire, how it fears nothing, how it falls to no one. She looked back at the towering beast, still writhing, trying to reach the blade lodged in its spine. Until, "Now!" Cole gritted his teeth and shoved his shoulder back into place with a sickening crunch. He grabbed his rifle. "Then let's write a new story." Together, they advanced. The Dvorak lunged again, blood now streaming from its side. Cole dodged left, drawing its focus, while Varia sprinted to the right. She climbed a ledge and waited. Just as the beast turned toward Cole, she launched herself. He fired a precision shot at its left eye. The creature shrieked, staggered. Varia landed squarely atop its skull, her blade piercing clean through the eye socket into the brain. Silence. The Dvorak gave one final twitch, then collapsed in a heap, sending tremors through the ground. For a moment, neither of them moved, just panting, listening to the quiet jungle, to the echoes of their victory. Then Cole looked at her, covered in blood, tail draped down her leg, blades still glowing faintly. "Remind me never to piss you off." Varia smirked. "Only if you remind me never to leave your side." He didn't answer with words. He just pulled her into him. Word traveled fast on Solaris 9. Within a day, drones overhead and hidden sensors across the region broadcast footage of the Dvorak fall. A human and a Vulpine warrior had done what entire platoons couldn't. By the time Cole and Varia returned to the edge of the Emberfang territory, they were already legends. The gates of the settlement opened not with skepticism, but with awe. Varia led the way, chin high, her fur still stained with dried blood. Cole walked beside her, armor battered but face calm, quietly aware of every eye on him. Young warriors whispered, and elders stared as though a story had stepped out of myth and into flesh. At the central fire pit, the Emberfang chieftain awaited them. She was older, her fur gone pale with age, but her posture betrayed no weakness. Twin scars slashed across her muzzle, and her voice when she spoke cut like tempered steel. "Varia, you bring a human and a storm." Varia bowed her head slightly. "I bring the one who stood against Dvorak." The chieftain's eyes slid to Cole. "A predator who fights alongside prey? Or is it the other way around?" Cole stepped forward. "Depends on who you ask." A beat passed. Then the chieftain let out a low, rumbling laugh. "You have fire, human. I see why she chose you." Varia's ears twitched. "Chose? Do not play coy," the chieftain said. "The scent of blood isn't the only thing you brought back. You've bonded." Cole glanced at Varia, who met his look with no hesitation. "Yes," she said aloud. "I chose him. In battle, in instinct, in trust." The silence that followed was electric. The chieftain nodded once. "Then let it be known. A new bond is forged between Emberfang and Terran blood. If it brings more victories, like this, may the stars bless it." The crowd let out a low, approving growl, a sound of acceptance. Varia turned to Cole, her tail flicking against his leg. "Welcome to the clan." He blinked. "Wait, I just got adopted." She leaned in, voice husky with pride. "You earned it. Every wound, every kill, every step you took beside me." He grinned. "Does this come with a room and a dental plan?" "No, she said, with a sharp smile. It comes with me. And to Cole, that was more than enough. 2 days later, the footage of the Dvorak kill was no longer just tribal rumor. It had been uploaded, transmitted, and broadcast across human colonies and non-human controlled territories alike. The image of Cole standing beside the massive corpse, blood-slick blade in hand, with Vareya crouched atop the beast's skull like a victorious huntress queen. It was already going viral across a dozen planetary feeds. Human soldier slays ancient apex with alien warrior mate. First human Vulpine bond officially recognized by Ember Fang clan. Is this the start of a new alliance or a dangerous precedent? The Terran military command wasn't amused. Cole's comm unit pinged repeatedly. Priority alerts, orders, warnings. He didn't answer. Vareya watched from across the Ember Fang hall as he turned the comm off completely and tossed it into the fire. The plastic and circuitry hissed and curled in the flames. "You're not going back," she said. "No," he replied, walking toward her. "If Earth wants me, they can come talk to me here." She stepped close, her hands resting lightly against his chest plate. "They'll see our bond as a threat, something unnatural. Then we show them it's not." She was quiet a moment. "Will your people accept me?" Cole placed his forehead against hers. "I don't care. You're not just accepted, you're mine, and I'm yours." At that moment, a new alert came through. This time not from Earth, but from a Vulpine scout patrol. A fleet was en route, not human, not Vulpine. Something else, unknown origin, unmarked. Hulls. Planetfall expected in 48 hours. Vareya's fur bristled. Another threat. Cole reached for his rifle and grinned. Another hunt. Together? She bared her teeth. Always. He nodded. As they walked out into the blazing morning light, side by side, the clans gathered behind them. Vulpine warriors, old and young, sharpening blades and bearing fangs. The Ember Fang had never united with outsiders before, but they'd never had this kind of outsider, and with Vareya at his side, Cole Maddox was ready to prove one final truth. They weren't just fighting to survive anymore. They were fighting to lead. The warships appeared on Solaris 9's outer radar net with chilling silence. No transponder signals, no diplomatic broadcasts, no